Welcome to the Mormon to Medium podcast, where we'll talk about spirituality, the paranormal, religion, and my journey going from Mormon to medium. I'm Nanette Ride. Thanks for listening. Now let's go have some fun.
Don't be afraid. Close your eyes. There's a moon overhead, but the sun will rise. Blood on our lips, such a poisonous bite. The sound of our hearts go bump, bump, bump in the night.
Hello and welcome. This is the Mormon to Medium podcast. I'm here today with Nanette, the medium.
Nanette the medium.
Yep. And a very special guest, Scott, the barber.
Hi, guys.
Hey, Scott.
Happy to be here.
Thanks for being here. We're super excited.
We definitely are excited to have Scott in. Scott is going to give us a unique perspective on Mormonism. So, as many of you know, Nan and I, well, we've been out for a little while. Scott is actually one of those, I guess you would call yourself a nuanced Mormon.
Yeah, I don't know what I'd call myself. Some people might. It's not necessarily Jack Mormon, which is a common term in our culture of people that were born and raised in the LDS church, but no longer practice, whether they're drinking coffee or swearing or whatever it is. They're just like, they're a Mormon still because they're baptized and in the church. So I'm not quite that. I'm still an active Mormon with a temple recommend, but I have my own beliefs and I've found a way to intermingle the two and it works, but it may not be exactly what the church believes. I feel like I'm kind of somewhere in between where I found peace with myself and with God and I feel good about where I'm at.
I love that. It's all about, your own individual journey, right? And we all need to love each other. I know Brad and I have shared our journeys, and mine's have been a little bit rockier than others, and I'm very opinionated about what I've been through. But by no means does it mean that everyone needs to walk my path or believe like I do. I think we need to remember we need to love each other where we're at, right?
Well, and that's really the important part of the podcast. You've said it time and time again. We want to share our feelings and help shed light in dark places. And I think that having differing perspectives is important. I think that it's part of the journey in respect and being able to have conversations with people who maybe don't have the exact same opinions that you do, but being able to discuss them in a dignified manner.
Definitely. I think it's really important to talk to people like Scott. And, it adds some spice to life to learn to accept people's choices for their own lives and honor them for that. So I cannot wait to hear all the juicy stuff.
I'm pretty sure he was like, these assholes. I am going to go and set them straight. By hell, not putting up with this anymore.
Just for the record, we're not going back to church, okay? You are not the missionary. So if you're planning to be a missionary, it ain't going to work.
I'm going to bring them back, guys. Don't worry.
So, Scott, go ahead and share a little bit about why you decided you would like to be on the show.
Well, just a little bit of background about myself. I grew up in a very unique way in which my parents divorced when I was very young. My mom continued on the path of being active in the church, and my dad did not. They were both remarried, had families. My dad was always very financially well off and was not active. He drank and smoked and my mom on the other side.
Do you know what? I'm going to just pause for just a minute because every time I saw your dad, he had the biggest smile. Like, your dad has a great smile like you do. Like, he always just had this big smile on his face and was so welcoming to everyone.
Yeah, I love them. And they're very, they accept the path I've chosen and they don't try to lean me one way or another. And I've been very grateful for my mom in the sense that she was also very accepting of, Joseph Smith chose his own path and he went and found his truth. Mm-hmm. And why can't I do the same? Why can't I strive to find what works for me? And so my mom was very accepting of that as well. So I'm grateful.
That's a wise mama.
She is. She's amazing.
Scott's got a really cool mom. She always treated me very well.
I love it.
So I joined the military right out of high school, and I was in the airport, and there was a book called The Secret by Rhonda Byrne. And I picked it up and I read it as I was traveling to Japan. And honestly, that book alone kind of changed my trajectory. I already wasn't very active in the church. I didn't like, passing the sacrament and doing all that growing up. I'd rather be out partying with my friends. And, I wasn't.
It's hard to sit there for an hour and listen to moany music.
Yes.
Even as an adult.
And I was, honestly, I was on a very destructive path. I knew I was going to end up in prison or dead had I not made a major life choice out of high school. I was doing a lot of drugs and things like that. And honestly, the Marine Corps straightened me out. They luckily, they were upping their numbers at the time, and they found a way to get me in. I passed that test. I don't know how, but it set me on a path towards being who I am today.
You hear that a lot. Like, people will say, man, I went into the Marine Corps and I was just a shit. And they gave me respect for myself, respect for others, and the discipline that I needed to succeed in my life. It's really amazing to hear some of those stories.
Yeah, it was amazing. So The Secret, I learned about the law of attraction and like manifestation and like all this stuff. And I started applying it, and I was like, why didn't I ever know about this stuff before? Like, this is amazing. And so then I kind of went on this like, well, I want to learn about Catholicism. I want to learn about Buddhism. I tried to learn about as many different religions as I could. And a lot of times I came back to this like, well, then what is it? Is it a collective consciousness? What is this great energy that is kind of connecting everything? And I could never find that answer that I was searching for until one day, years after being out of the military, I was out in the woods and I'd taken a bunch of mushrooms and, which...
Did you see two personages?
Oh,
Sorry.
a little background on that. That's actually the verbiage that's used in the Joseph Smith story when he talks about the first vision of seeing God and Jesus Christ. So,
And I might have a hot toddy on board, so
well played, Nan.
Yeah. So no, I didn't see two personages, but the great thing about mushrooms is it opens up that pathway towards learning and understanding, and you are your greatest teacher. It's like these answers that you're getting, they're coming from within somewhere. And so I got this answer because I was wondering, what is it? And the answer that came was, you know what? For simplicity's sake, let's just call it God, and let's run with that and see where that takes us. And from that point forward, I had so much clarity and so much understanding and so much just like peace when I wasn't trying to define it anymore. I was like, okay, if this is what it is, then X, Y, Z. And, everything kind of started connecting for me. And I met my wife, and my bishop approached us and said, hey, do you want to get married in the temple? And we both kind of laughed. Like we were drinking and partying and already having sex. That was not something that we thought we would be able to do. And, we played the bishop lottery and we won.
Scott, would you explain what the bishop lottery is, please? Because we have a lot of listeners who don't know some of these Mormon terms.
Yeah. So the bishop lottery is if you have a very loving, accepting, Christ-like bishop who truly embodies what Christ would do and understands that nobody's perfect and is willing to work with you and get you as close as is reasonably possible for you, then you can still check all the boxes and go through the temple. Now, in Utah, it's few and far between. They're very strict. You have to follow all of these rules or you are absolutely not worthy.
They're very by the book.
So it really just kind of depends on your bishop. And he worked with us and he said, can you guys give me 6 months? Can you stop doing what you're doing and give me 6 months? We did pretty good. There were a few minor slip ups, but I think we got, 4 or 5 solid months and he was happy with our progress. And he said, you know what, let's do it. You made it. And so
the person was more important than the action.
Yeah.
And I think that's very cool.
Yeah. So
Can I ask a question?
yeah.
So you were going to get married in the temple, right? Mm-hmm. Why didn't you just get civilly married and bang your brains out and then get sealed in the temple?
That's a valid question.
So they recently changed that rule. It used to be, and I'm sure of course it's changed a lot over the years, but it used to be that you had to wait, I think it was a full year after being civilly married,
Yeah.
that you can then go get sealed.
Right.
Shortly, like 6 months after we were married, they changed that to where, okay, if you get civilly married, now you're married, you can go get sealed like the next
Really?
week. Absolutely. Yeah. It's
Interesting.
So you could have done that.
We could have.
No abstinence necessary.
But
That would be hard if you knew you were going to get married and be with someone.
That's what she
That would
said.
It's true. Great. I have two 14-year-olds now.
That's the best part of the podcast. I love listening to Brad's little 14-year-old jokes.
Well, the funny thing is Nan tries to act like I'm above that. I don't make jokes like that. I'm a lady.
Occasionally.
Yeah, we know. Sorry, I derailed everything.
He always does.
So back to where my wife was a convert. She received the missionary teachings when she was about 18. She grew up in a Mormon community, but was never active, never went to church. And she chose to get baptized when she was about 18 or 19. And
I think it's a lot easier to choose when you're 18 or 19 versus when you're 8.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't get the candy bar poster.
You could. Did you give her a candy bar poster?
I wasn't there.
Here's a little story. So when Scott got baptized, he got a candy bar poster. And the reason I know is because when Tyler was going to get baptized, he was really excited because he knew he was going to get a candy bar poster. I still to this day,
adorable.
right? I wonder if part of the reason Tyler got baptized was because he knew he was going to get a candy bar poster like Scott.
Heck yeah. So I always knew, because of my, call it colorful past, even though I was attending singles ward and this and that, some 19-year-old girl that was raised in the church, it was going to be very hard to find one that would accept me and my past. So I always knew I would end up with a convert because typically they probably had a colorful past too.
Right.
And so, yeah, I'm very grateful for my wife. She's absolutely amazing. And she is raising our little 2-year-old daughter because I work all the time. But she's amazing.
2? Stop it.
Yeah.
When did that happen?
In October.
What?
She's growing so
I remember.
fast.
What? Oh my gosh, we're horrible. We need to go see that baby.
Yeah. Well, she's got to come here and swim this summer.
Yes.
Yes, please.
Absolutely. And if you want to do that girls trip, I mean, I'm trying to always tell Sydney, like, hey.
Yeah.
See, there you go.
I know. I have so many women that have reached out. Can I be part of the girls' trip? Can I be part of And now I got a posse. It'll be great. We're just going to have to do it now. So your daughter, too. Wow.
Yeah.
And your wife is gorgeous, by the way.
Thank you. She is.
So you're like, hey, I've got to marry a convert because anyone else is going to be like, hey, I'm missionary or nothing, right?
Yep. So, yeah, we both kind of, because I had that experience and I thought, okay, well, if we're going to call it God, let's run with that and let's do the Mormon thing. Like and so when he asked us that, I figured, well, why not? Let's run with it, see what happens. And it was really amazing. I think, honestly, part of going through that difficult challenge early on in our relationship has really, in a way, been a backbone and a foundation for when things do get hard. It's like, look, well, we went through that really hard thing early on. This is nothing.
You know? I'll bet you did.
It was rough.
I'm almost speechless.
Jack Black has a song about that.
Now you're feeling me. Now you know how it is to be derailed every 5 seconds.
Which is different than being railed.
Oh, jeez.
I'm sorry.
No, you're not. Holy crap, we're just getting warmed up too.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. From there,
So you got married in the temple,
yeah.
and did you just jump in with both feet to total religion, or were you like,
So here's the thing, because of everything that I had learned and the different cultures I'd learned about, I traveled around the world a lot while I was in the military, and I've seen people bear testimony of their truth in their religion or culture or whatever it is. And so in many ways, I've always considered myself an agnostic Mormon. Like, I believe what I believe, but just because I have a testimony, that does not discount your personal testimony of your faith in your religion. And so that's one of my biggest pet peeves that I've experienced. It is getting better, but I've been to a lot of churches and wards where, you know, somebody gets up there and says, I'm just so grateful to belong to the one true church, and I feel for those that aren't part of our church. And it's just, it's like daggers. Like, come on. Like, you clearly haven't ever met somebody that is Catholic and firmly believes their truth, or is Muslim and firmly believes their truth. Like, who are you to say that they're wrong? Like,
So that's a valid point. And you hear that a lot, right? Like, for example, when someone falls away from the church, you know, everyone has to rally around and be like, I feel so much sorrow for my auntie who fell away from the church, and now she's going to go to outer darkness instead of the celestial kingdom, and she's going to have to learn all this again. It seems like there's a lot of arrogance there. And it's daggers when you hear some of that, because it's literally such a myopic viewpoint, right? It's just seen through such a small lens that you can't understand or have that one love, right? That Bob Marley one love.
I think it's important, though, to point out, though, that there's a difference between spirituality and religion. A lot of people, especially nowadays, that are learning about their truth and their light, and they're finding that for themselves. It's more on their spiritual side. Religion is more of the man-made, you know, earthbound, this is what I believe in and this is what's going to keep my foundation or, you know, drive my purpose type of thing. And I'll be honest, I'm grateful that I had the foundation that the church provided, because it gave me a moral compass that helped me throughout my life. Did I always use my moral compass, you know, 1000% to the north? No. Did I learn a lot? Yeah, I did. And that's what this life is about, you know, but I think it's so important, like you pointed out, you know, the truth for some Catholics or, you know, some Buddhists or some monks or some shaman or whatever. But you have to remember, we're all spirits. And that's where truth resides, is within our spirits. And that's what we all have in common. So that's where the love has to come in, because your spirit having this earth school experience, right? And no matter what you believe in, you're still that spirit. And I have to honor you. And I have to honor him at 14. I'm like, am I making sense? So there's a difference between the two. And I'm just wondering, when did you grasp a hold of your spirituality? Because I know you're spiritual.
I don't know exactly when.
Was it The Secret that like planted the seed for you, that book?
It could
Or
have
was it
been
the plant medicine?
Honestly, plant medicine, I think, had a lot to do with it. Just whether it was, you know, so in high school, smoking marijuana, that was like, it caused you to ask a lot of questions and kind of think critically. But it really wasn't until like experiencing mushrooms that really kind of opened my eyes to that. Wow, everything really is connected. Like everything is energy. And
Yeah.
and in so many ways, like, because it's energy can be like manipulated and like I don't know. It's just, I don't know. I think when I was in Spain, I was doing a lot of meditation and yoga and just really trying to connect to like my higher power. I really kind of strongly believe that in the collective consciousness theory, that whether it's a great ball of energy or just the fact that, like you said, when we die, our energy, I kind of believe, gets absorbed back into the energy of all of us. And so when people do have these like past life memories and stuff, it's, well, because when they are given a body, I think they pull bits and pieces from that collective energy. And so they could have memories from many different people's lives. And,
that's a cool theory.
you know, so I don't know. That's what's resonated with me. I'm very grateful for my wife being accepting of the things that I still choose to believe. And, you know, it works for me. Yes, technically, mushrooms probably is against the word of wisdom. but it doesn't.
Where?
It doesn't
say
exclusively say that.
It doesn't say that.
It doesn't say that anywhere.
Nope.
So for me, it's like
In fact, it says you should have a beer now and then. It says that
Moderation
hops are for
in
the
all
drink,
things.
right? So,
and that's where I've always just kind of taken as this like moderation in all things. Like I don't think it's a sin to have a glass of wine every now and then if that's what you choose to do. As a recovering alcoholic, I choose not to because
Right.
I've been down that path.
good call.
But you know, mushrooms really are for me. It's a very spiritual thing. It's not a party thing. In fact, sometimes it's very uncomfortable. You're learning things about yourself that maybe you don't want to learn or aren't ready to accept.
Tell us about that. What do you mean by that?
So many people I know that have tried mushrooms, either they didn't quite take enough or they took enough, but not quite enough to break through to have a breakthrough. And so what they get left with is kind of anxiety and like this, like just they feeling dirty and sick and like, nothing's happening. This is stupid. But part of that is like, maybe there was some trauma in your past and your conscious mind isn't quite ready to tackle that and embrace it and get through it. And so it just holds back and it keeps you kind of stuck essentially.
Gotcha.
So I strongly recommend if you're going to do it, like do it for real, do 3.5 grams, do an eighth. Like that's when they do these studies in universities and stuff, they measure it in, micrograms of psilocybin, which each mushroom is different, but generally it's about an eighth of mushrooms.
And how long are you on this trip?
It can kind of come in waves. You'll think, oh, okay, it's gone. And then all of a sudden, whoa, just kidding. It's not. But plan for about 4 to 6 hours.
Are you like throwing up and puking
No,
or like
no.
what? Like, are you seeing shit? Like, is it like hallucinogenic type stuff? Like, what do you see? What goes on? Does your heart beat really hard? Like,
No.
do you get dizzy?
So for me, it's, I like being out in nature. I 100% recommend to anyone, don't do it sitting in your house. Like go camping, go to a place where you feel safe, you feel comfortable. I always feel safe and comfortable in the woods. And it's funny because I have friends that, maybe are a little more paranoid. Like, okay, so I had this just not too long ago. I was with a friend and we went out camping and I like to adventure. When I take mushrooms, I want to be in nature. I am nature. I want to be with
Are you
nature.
saying you were naked?
No.
Okay.
No, that's spirituality. That's the difference between.
Oh, that's grounding.
that-
Sorry.
That's the difference between spirituality and religion. Religion is Sundays in a suit and tie in the middle of a building. Spirituality is sky clad out in the woods beneath the full moon.
But Scott was not
Yes.
that way.
No, he was just adventuring.
I like to keep my clothes on. I like to be comfortable and warm.
Okay.
So I went out for a hike and just kind of wandered, enjoyed the sunset. Sometimes you'll see some visuals. You'll see like waves of light and energy flowing from the moon and kind of like absorbing into your skin.
Shut the front door.
Oh yeah, it's amazing. So you'll see the trees. Often you'll see the trees breathing. Like
What?
It's the like everything's still there. You're not like seeing things that aren't there. It's
Right.
just
God,
it's just a different
you must take me on this journey.
and then just the kind of the clarity. It helps you analyze your life from like a third person perspective. Like
So
'cause-
like your higher self.
yeah. Like you're so kind of stuck in the way you look at things, and then like when you're on mushrooms, it's like looking at things from the outside in.
Like a wider lens.
Yeah, it's incredible. And I always come back feeling much more grateful for what I have. A lot of my stress is gone because I start to realize that why am I letting all these little things, financial burdens or whatever it is, just weigh me down when really like just be happy. Like
Yeah.
everything will be fine. It all will work out.
I love that.
And so it's roughly every 6 months or so that I'm like, okay, it's about time for me to go on another long hike.
So what happened? What happened with your? I'm sorry, Nan. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
It's all right. I'm used to it.
Oh, ouch. So you were telling us about your friend. You went off wandering and
Yes. So I wandered out and I was gone for, I don't know, maybe 45 minutes. I don't feel like it was that long. But I came back and I'm just all smiles, and I walked back into camp, and honestly, in my opinion, he hadn't taken enough, because he's kind of like, he likes to be mama bear and be in control of the situation always. And so he only takes a little bit, and it so it wasn't
I
enough.
am Rory fingering Brad right now.
It wasn't quite enough for him to kind of just let go, right? And that's really what it is. It's an exercise in letting go,
Right.
Just accepting, and so I come back and he runs towards me and he shoves me in the car. I can't believe you took off like that. Blah, 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 blah. Like, there could have been bears out there. I was driving up and down the road, and I'm just like sitting there like, did you see that sunset though?
oh my gosh.
Yeah. So it's just, it is my, yes. Have I been diagnosed with depression and ADHD and all of these things? Yes. But if once every 6 months I just go have a good mushroom trip, like, there's no need for any of that other medication that just makes me feel numb and not myself.
Wow.
So
That's a big deal too, because there are so many people who they rely on those pharmaceuticals.
and I am disclaimer, I'm not suggesting anybody do that or recommending that to anybody.
You are not a doctor. You
I
do
am not a doctor.
diagnose or treat.
Well, and none of us are, and
No.
we're not recommending anything contrary to what a physician might say, but that's a very interesting alternative viewpoint.
Yeah.
It really is. And look, we know there's a lot of pharmaceuticals out there that cause a lot of harm.
There's a ton
There
of
just
side
are.
effects upon side effects. And we all know that, but that's really interesting because I know quite a few people that have had experiences, but I haven't heard in depth like that.
Yeah.
I've even heard of people microdosing to help them get to sleep and be able to sleep good.
Yeah. And sometimes weird things happen. I've found myself just like out in the middle of the desert doing snow angels in the sand as I look at the moon in the middle of the night.
How
just
cute.
just so fun. It's just like kind of embracing your inner child and
I was going to say it sounds so
Yeah,
childlike.
it
It's almost like
is.
all your barriers come down and you're able to be a child.
yes. And that's, I mean, we all should really practice that and be better about being open and loving and accepting as a child. Like, and
Yeah.
just go play in the sandbox, you know, like
Yeah.
have a bubble bath with a little squirt gun and army guys. Like, just remember what it was like to play and have fun.
Have you met Brad? That's why I married him.
No, it is. It's so important, Scott. And I
is.
think you hit the nail on the head with that, because we all get tied up in our day-to-day routine, right? Like you said, oh my gosh, financial things, or, work this or work that. And sometimes it's really hard to disconnect. Don't give me that look, Nan. Sometimes it's really hard to disconnect and just play and have fun. And beyond that, though, I think that child point of view is so amazing, because they see people for their souls, for their spirit. They don't go, oh, well, look at that guy, he's bald, or look at that guy, he's a scary biker looking dude. They just see a person, and they see him with love, and
Yeah.
my soul recognizes your soul, and it's amazing.
I had an amazing experience when I had a friend who we used to go do mushrooms together all the time. He's moved away, but it was so cool because when we were out hiking, and it tends to be at night, because during the day people might see these weirdos hiking out in the middle of nowhere. Might be a little weird. It's never fun to see. I've had an experience where I had a cop pull up while we were in the midst of it, and
Oh, snap.
Okay, you
Just
got to tell
kinda-
that story now.
Yeah, what
just put
happened?
the brakes on. Let's back up.
well, he was off duty at the time and he was in an RZR with his family. And so, but I knew who he was, and he pulled up on me and a brother actually. And we just kind of played it off, because right before we had seen a herd of mountain goats, and we're just watching them. Like, it's just the coolest thing, being out in nature and seeing.
That
Anyways.
actually is very cool.
So he pulled up and we just kind of like played it off, tried not to make eye contact. Like, but at the same time, like, he probably was like, those guys are on something. Like, whatever, what are they going to do? Like, we don't have any drugs on us. So, but yeah, this friend of mine that we used to adventure all the time with, one time we were out up near Pine Valley, and there was literally, we could see our shadows being cast onto the mountain beside us. And I was like, and I turned, I'm like, dude, turn the light off. Cause I like being out, like no lights, no EMFs, no, like, if you can, probably don't leave your cell phone behind just in case you do need to call somebody. But I like having the lights off. Like most people, when they go out in the dark in the wilderness, they need to have a flashlight. They need to see where they're going. But if you just like get rid of that for a second and start to realize that, wow, I actually can see in the dark if you give your eyes time to adjust, and you like, it's the coolest thing. Nan's pointing the finger
pointing
at
at me because she wanders around in the dark all the time. I had to ask her once. I'm like, Nan, are you going blind?
He did.
And she's like, why would you even ask that? I'm like, because you don't ever turn on the lights, and I can't see shit.
Yeah.
But I can. And so I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
You can see everything.
So there was a shadow, and like our shadows being cast onto the side of the mountain. I turned to my buddy. I'm like, dude, turn the light off. He's like, there's no light on. And we're like, wait, what? And sure enough, like there wasn't, but there was light coming from somewhere. And part of it is just, I think, that energy, like everything kind of emits a little bit of, in nature, everything kind of has some vibration, which light is vibration. And so just very low frequency light that gets put off. And me and my friend, we could literally like almost communicate telepathically. Like I could hear and understand him without him actually saying any words verbally.
That's awesome.
It was cool things, spending time with a good friend out hiking. It was a lot of fun.
That's awesome.
That is really cool. Next time you go out there and do that, try a little thing the shaman taught me. We did this on a date once in a dark area, right? No lights or anything. Rub your hands together like 50 times or whatever till they're nice and warm. And then put your fingertips together and pull them apart. And you can actually see the string of light, of energy running from finger to finger. See how far apart you can get it, and then do it with your partner. He and I can get like 3 feet apart, and our strings are going like this, and they just shimmer in the dark.
Oh, that's
It's
cool.
beautiful, but it's like energy is real. Once you can see it like that, and what you're saying totally resonates with me with, all of outside being like that, but you're like that. And once you realize that you're made of the same magic as everything around you out there, it's so amazing.
Yeah. I think that's so cool that, like, because I know that it's real, and like there's absolutely people like Nan out there that can see this all the time without the aid of plant medicine.
Yeah.
I think that's absolutely amazing.
My spirit guides call me to do this plant medicine, and it freaks me out because I already see shit. So what am I going to see? You know what I mean? Because I am controlling. I'm going to admit it. I am. And I know Brad gives me shit about it all the time, but yet I'm still getting pushed. And I know it's probably to get rid of those controlling issues that I have, and to feel like it's okay to let the universe be in control now, because it probably knows better than you, but don't look at me like that, Bradley J. Zeman.
Oh, I'm not looking to do anything. I'm just wondering if you can eat the mushrooms on a pizza, like, so that they taste good.
Yeah.
That's literally what I was thinking. I was like,
I've heard them putting peanut butter and jelly, ground up and put in some orange juice. There's all sorts of ways.
okay.
So you can mask it. It doesn't have to be like shove it in your mouth and gag it down.
No.
Yeah. Stop it. 14. You are just insufferable.
That sounds like it. That would be the hardest thing for you personally. It really is an exercise in letting go. Like if you're trying to control it and you're like waiting for something to happen, like it's not going to work.
It wouldn't be me waiting for something to happen. I don't have a problem with that. It's just, how deep is this going to go? Because I go pretty deep. Stop it.
I didn't say a word.
I can hear you. Oh my gosh. But seriously, like I tried a gummy, for example, and my very first time trying a gummy, I saw shit. Like I saw the inside of our house, and it was before it was being done. And I saw the people that were moving in. And it seemed like it lasted 3 days. And I know it was only a couple of hours, but at one point I'm taking a bath and I sit up from washing my hair and I look at Brad and I'm like, Jessica's not going to have a wedding. Oh my God. Jessica's not going to have a wedding. And this was just right at the beginning of COVID before they had announced anything.
Yeah, before they shut everything down.
Before they shut everything down. And she was supposed to get married in June. And Brad's like, well, you better get a hold of Jessica and let her know she needs a plan B. And thank God she like listens and knows to trust me. And she had a backup plan, or she made one. I knew shit. Do you know what I mean? And so that's what I'm wondering, because I already see spirits with my own human eyes. I don't need help with that. So what more does my spirit team want me to see? That is the part where I'm like,
and honestly,
I don't know.
That is something that only you could find out, because if I'm using medicine just to get to where you are, I can only imagine like what else is out there, you know, who knows?
Yeah. Right. I don't think I could fathom what else there would be.
Yeah.
And that's where the control is. Like, I'm used to this, you know, with this bubble around me. And if I were to let that down, then what's coming in?
Okay, so one of my favorite stories that I have to share, because again, I've been doing this for many years, not a lot, like twice a year maybe, but this was 3 to 4 years ago, and we recently moved to Laverkin, and I told my wife, hey, I'm going to go out on a hike, I'll be gone for a few hours, and you know, don't wait up on me, you know, don't call me, like I'll be back. And went out hiking by this river and kind of laid down on the bank for a bit, and then I kept hiking. I kept getting this feeling something was following me, and it's just I kept looking back, and there wouldn't be anything there, and I'd keep walking, and then look back again, like nothing's there. Finally, I stopped and turned and faced whatever it was that was there, and just kind of sat for a minute, and I looked down, and there's this little girl holding onto my leg, like,
you're gonna make me cry.
And kind of didn't think anything of it at the time. I was like, it's kind of weird. There's this little girl following me around. Strange. It was about 6 months to a year after that. My wife told me she was pregnant. I had not connected the two at the time. Everybody had me convinced I was having a boy. My mom had this chart that, you know, said, oh, yep, you're going to have a boy. And other people's like, oh yeah, you're having a boy, or, oh, the way she's carrying it, it's going to be a boy. So almost the whole pregnancy, I thought I was having a little boy.
Right.
And then, sure enough, it was Ellery. She was
so was it the
with
same
me.
girl you saw?
Absolutely.
Wow.
Yep. It was her.
love that so
And she knew she was coming. It was just a matter of time. And so she was getting to know me before she was here. It was awesome.
That is such a cool story.
Okay, so let's go back to your collective consciousness theory thing. How does that fit? Like, because I'm trying to put, you know, things together too and really understand that theory.
That is a good question.
How does that fit? Because you hear these kinds of stories a lot, especially of dads being able to see their little baby girls, right? I've heard that a lot from dads. And it's just such a sacred thing. And it's like those little girls don't come to the moms, they come to the dads. And I think it's for a reason to soften them and bring them back to grounding type of thing. But do you think she was always around and you just were able to see her? Or do you think that's really her spirit that came to see you? Or do you think it's a consciousness? Or
no, you're right. That is something that, you know, it doesn't quite fit with the whole collective consciousness, or, you know, that we would have to be individual spirit beings pre-coming here. So interesting. Just a thought.
Yeah. I'm not trying to sway anybody.
Not
it's
at
just
all.
a thought.
I love thinking critically, and I love exploring these ideas because, yeah, you're absolutely right. And I do believe that, you know, we are spirits in the afterlife and this and that. And you know, so maybe that's why I just, you know, that doesn't quite fit. So let's call it God. Like, you know, like,
right.
No, that makes sense.
So it's just kind of how I just keep going back to, you know, the LDS church, because that's where I found, for me, most things fit.
Well, Scott, I really want to dive into more of that and your experience blending all of this with the LDS church and how you deal with some of those things that other people would call shelf breakers, right? They put up on the shelf, you know, this and this and this and this, and then finally the shelf breaks and they're like, all right, I'm out. But we don't have any more time on this episode. Would you be willing to join us again next week?
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome. So we're going to go ahead and end today. Nan, do you have any special thoughts or words you want to share with anyone?
Before we got on here, we were talking with Scott, and just my big thought, and I say it so many times, but just be aware that we're each a spirit having a journey here on this earth, and we're all learning. And guys, give each other grace, show each other love, no matter where we're at on our journey, whether we're making bad decisions or good ones, or remove the judgment and just see the spirit that's standing there trying to learn, and just give them love and grace. That's
awesome. Thank you, Nan. And Scott, do you have anything you'd like to share?
Appreciate you guys having me on. I always love talking about my experiences and the things that I've found to be true for me. And again, I absolutely agree. Everybody's journey is their journey, and we should accept and love everybody for whatever their path is, and free of judgment.
Awesome. I love it. Thank you, everyone, for listening. If you enjoy the show, please leave us a good review. Hit that like button. Leave a rating. It really does a lot to help expose the show to others. We appreciate you so much, and we'll see you
on the other side of the veil.
Make the most of